Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. Want to do a quick video to talk about a question I've been getting on some of my more recent videos now that people have seen that I have weight storage on my rack again to hold those Fitness 45-pound bumpers that I'll be reviewing. But also a lot of people have been sliding into my DMs on Instagram to ask me, can they put plate storage on a rack and will it get in the way of benching? And I think this question has come up a lot more frequently as of late because of during this whole pandemic, Rogue is not taking special orders for the half rack feet like they did previously, which I have on the front of my rack, and they're not currently producing the Rogue Monster Mini feet, which I have on the rear of my rack. So both of those things are fantastic ways to stabilize your actual rack without having to bolt it down. I've made a video on bolting it down, which I'll link in the description box below, but during this pandemic, I find Rogue's not taking special orders and they're only producing a certain amount of equipment in certain types of flavors, meaning certain finishes and colors and whatnot. And the half rack feet, which is a special order, and the mini feet, which is just probably a low desired item, they're not making at this time. So they don't give that many people options to do anything besides bolt it down, which still, again, as I said earlier, not a lot of people want to do. So the question is, can I put plate storage pins on my rack and will that weigh it down? And if I do that, is it going to get in the way of me benching or training? So for this particular video, I'm only going to talk about having lower pins on because I only have plate storage on here as a way to potentially hold my rack down and brace it against the floor. And spoiler alert, as you can see real quickly, there's not much to show you here. It doesn't get in the way whatsoever. So my rack here is a 30-inch depth rack. And if you have a normal setup in bench position and normal bar path, which some might argue I might not have, you don't come anywhere close to hitting the weights itself. There's plenty of clearance here, no issues whatsoever. And I think the only time you would probably bump weights that are on there is if you decided to put the wagon wheels on those pins, which probably would look pretty funky. I will also say that where mine are currently located, they're the second peg up from where they could go because mine have the notch for the Monster series and it's at the second lowest point with still plenty of room. I could put it lower to create even more clearance, but that means if I were to remove the weights from there, I'd have to bend over further, and who wants to do that? So as far as benching goes, it doesn't get in the way. Now, if you're really worried about it, you could always flip the actual weights to the other side, down by towards where your feet are, and again, that would brace the rack just as well and wouldn't get in the way of benching. The caveat to that is, though, in setting up these actual plate storage pins on your rack for weights, is I would very much suggest that when you're squatting, you're putting the weight storage on the opposite side of which you're racking in the rack. Meaning that if you're facing forwards, you want the plate pins behind you. And I say that because if you're like me and tend to push the bar into the rack when racking, that can create a lot of force and pressure. And if there's no weights in the back to kind of hold that rack down and you don't have the stabilizing feet, it's more likely that the rack is going to tip over in that case. So having those pins and plate storage in the back will hold the rack down better. Now, again, if you're putting those pins in the front because you're just worried that it's going to hit your bench anyway for some reason, you might have to face, in my case, the wall. So again, as long as the pins and weight storage is behind you when squatting, you should be fine for this. And the nice thing about at least the Rogue Monster series, if you go for some of these nicer plate storage pins that don't necessarily bolt on, they're hand tightened, which means they're very easy to remove and move around if you want to. So even if you want to change them in between sets, you probably could. A lot of that's probably going to be dictated by how much weight you're putting on them. But again, it's a good way to, number one, get your plates up off the floor and also stabilize that rack a little bit better if you're afraid of bolting it down. So if you have any other questions I wasn't able to answer in this particular video, make sure you leave them in the comments section below. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.